It's time to separate these tomatoes and put them in their own little containers, and I think they're going to be really happy to have their own room. It's worked well to plant them all how I did it here, instead of just individually planting them starting off in their own little bins. It worked great when I was trying to get them to sprout and I had to bring them in at night to keep them warm, and then I could bring them out during the day when it was warm enough in the greenhouse. And they sprouted that way. Look at the little tomato spoons. Yep, smaller there. They're much smaller than let's say your regular tomato here. I've got some borage too that I probably need to separate as well. You see that? I didn't show you all this one, but this is the honeycomb hybrid, and it's a cherry tomato. I'm doing a lot of hybrids this year. In fact, most of my paste tomatoes are hybrids. The ones I got are supposed to be well equipped to handle the humidity that we have out here in my garden. And we'll see how they do. So this is the Juliet. These are the paste. I should have about 50 of these. Now I also did collect some open pollinated Amish paste heirloom tomatoes, and we'll see what we get. They were next to a hybrid determinate tomato. So I'm not quite sure what happens when a indeterminate mixes with a determinate. What happens there? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So I get all my bins from my local hardware store. He ends up just needing to toss them, so he gives them out to people. And last year I saw he had a stack of these guys out in front of his store, and I was like, you know, what are you going to do with those? And he says he just gives them out to people. So I took them, and it's been great. In fact, I'm going to probably need more. I was counting them up that I have a good 200, but I think I'm going to need more of that. And I did ask him if he had any more last week, and he said he thinks he might have some at home. So hopefully he has more. Otherwise, I'm going to have to be ordering some. I thought about ordering from Bootstrap. I've heard a lot of gardeners recommend them, but we'll see. I prefer to recycle the stuff that I can, and plus I really like to save money where I can. That's important to me. How I'm going to separate these. So you could just kind of tug on them, but every once in a while you'll get one that's just kind of stuck and then it ends up breaking. So I'm going to kind of use this stick to kind of uproot them gently. See, this little root system's way down there. There we go. So now we got the whole thing up, and I didn't have to break any of those little roots. I'll dig a little hole, nice and deep. We can plop that little guy all the way down in there. And there you go. Interesting thing about hybrids, I've been learning more about them. Now, seed companies came out, and they've been around since the 1700s. They even had seed catalogs. I thought that was quite fascinating. But it wasn't until the 1930s that the seed companies started to develop and sell hybrids. And the reason they started doing that is a way to create more business. Because with hybrids, they are crossed between at least 2 or more plants. The first generation hybrid, I need to get more soil here. if you were to collect seeds from it, is not going to produce the same plant. It's going to have characteristics of its mother and father plant. You just don't know which ones those are. And sometimes they're not as vigorous. But I've never tried it myself before. I've never collected seeds from a hybrid and then planted them. So I am going to experiment with that this year. And we'll see what we get, because the goal is to be able to create tomatoes, especially the tomatoes. Those are the ones that have a tendency to get pretty sick in my garden because I have a lot of humidity. I want to develop a tomato that grows well in my garden because, you know, each garden's different. My garden is different from my neighbors next door. Their property is higher up and ours kind of slopes down and then eventually goes out to the creek, the main creek. And we've got a lot of old growth forest, mushrooms, ferns. It's beautiful, but it does create, I have a lot more wetness and humidity in my garden. I even have ferns growing in my vegetable garden that pop up, and it's beautiful. But, so I need a tomato that can handle that environment. Let me show you something that I like to use. This little handy dandy thing. It is able to tell the temperature for me of the soil. So I just point it. These are my little dill popping up here. And it'll turn on. So 75.3. Because it's your soil temperature that matters more than the actual temperature in the room. So right now it's, well, not quite 80 degrees in here, you see. But this thing's just kind of nice to use. And I do have a heating lamp here, y'all. I was kind of experimenting with it. You've probably seen it in the background. And don't worry, whenever we use a heating lamp, it is always very secure. Nathan always screws them into the actual structure. So this guy's not coming down unless the whole greenhouse does. But I was kind of curious to see what it would do. It hasn't affected the room temperature, but it has affected the soil temperature. The ones that are closest to the light that's shining down on, you see here. So these ones are the ones that are directly below it. You'll see it's 84.2. That's kind of cool, huh? The ones that are further away, 75, 74. Anyways, kind of nice. It's fun to use. I think this is only $19.99 at Harbor Freight. I don't know what I did with my darn popsicle stick. I don't know. I always do this to myself. I set things down and then they're lost forever. Earlier this week, y'all, on Groundhog Day. Ha! There it is. Anyway. But earlier this week, the girls and I went to go see the Southern Groundhog. His name's General Beauregard. What is it? Beauregard, that's right. His name's General Beauregard Lee. And he is the cutest little thing. I'm going to tell you that right now. And, you know, surprisingly for a little animal, he's 60% accurate predicting whether the spring will be early or not. And he was so cute, guys. He came running out.
Yeah, it is. I'm here in Dosset Trails. I'm trying not to talk too loud because there's a lot of people waiting. We're going to send you over to his little estate.
There he is.
So cute.
Hey, sweetie.
And now, this is
You see him?
Does he go back inside? Does he stay out? Come on, spring. Come on, spring.
And he lives in a little southern mansion. And he did predict that we were going to have an early spring this year. So I was pretty excited about that. Kind of interesting thing about using animals as predicting the weather. The Germanic tribes used to use a hedgehog to predict the weather. Now, it wasn't until the Dutch came to Pennsylvania that they started using groundhogs. And that's why we do that to this day. And I wasn't even aware that the South had their own groundhog, but they do. Y'all, I went to Costco. And I told myself, I said, I'm not gonna look at the roses. Well, when I first walked in, they weren't there, and I was like, oh, phew, I guess everybody bought them. Well, walking around, I realized they moved them. And, well, I ended up looking, and of course I found one that I loved, and they even dropped the price. So I ended up buying myself more roses. These ones are really pretty. They're called Waike. No, how do you pronounce it again? Wahiki. I think they're pronounced Wahiki, but I'd have to double check on that. But they're gorgeous. I went ahead and expanded my rose garden today. And I planted them. All the food that these seedlings need is in the seed itself to produce these 2 little leaves. Now, once they start producing more leaves, you want to start fertilizing them with something. I didn't know this the first time I started growing my own vegetables and plants from seeds, and they definitely suffered and they didn't grow as quickly and vigorously. I like to use this fish fertilizer. I get it at Walmart. Last year it was $19.99. Of course, everything's going up. It was like $23 something. And this has worked very well for me. Now, of course, if you have your own compost tea or something, you can use that. I used up all mine from last year. So I'm going to go ahead and be using this, but I'm going to experiment this year. Yes, it has all the food it needs for these 2 little leaves, but I'm curious to see if I start fertilizing them before they even produce those leaves, if they'll produce them quicker. So I'm going to kind of experiment and fertilize some earlier, and the others I'll start fertilizing once they start developing their more leaves. And I'll let you know how that works. We'll see what works better. I was able to do all of the Juliet paste tomatoes. I ordered 50 seeds. Well, I have 53 plants. That's amazing. I've never ordered for this company before. I'll put the name below here. That's pretty dang good germination. They must have given me some extra seeds, but that's awesome. I'm going heavy on the paste tomatoes this year because I want to be able to make a lot of tomato sauce, crushed tomatoes, diced tomatoes, all that stuff. I use a lot of it. I go through a lot. I'd like to be able to grow all the tomatoes I need for the whole year. But I wanted to show you something. These are all Jarndale pumpkin seeds. One of the squashes I grew last year was a Jarndale pumpkin, and I loved the color. It was a lovely green. But this year I decided I'm not going to go so heavy on the squash. But I was able to, well, I think I was able to cover one of the female flowers and pollinate it myself. So these should be true to that plant, but we'll see. Something else could have gotten to it before me, and we could have ended up with a cross between a Long Island cheese or a Tahitian melon. Who knows? But I decided, you know, I'm going to have some extra arches this year. I might as well just go ahead and plant some of these for fun, and we'll see what we get. And they are such a lovely pumpkin. In fact, last week I cooked this one up. I just cook the whole pumpkin in the oven. Then I scoop out the insides, blend it up, and I like to make a soup with it, whether I want to blend in some onions and garlic. This time I did the onions, garlic, sausage. I went ahead and used potatoes and carrots, and oh my goodness, it was delicious. But I decided, you know what, I might as well save some seeds from them, and we also cooked some up in the oven. So these are interesting, y'all. I don't know if you can see this on camera, They are quite plump. When these guys go in the oven and you want to roast them, they start popping. It's like popcorn in your oven. So I need to clean my oven out because I've got a lot of these guys on the bottom of it, stinking my oven up, so. But they're fun. All right, forward. What are we gonna do next? Ah, brandy wine. Let's do the black cherry. So you know what I think I might do for fun, y'all? So I got my black cherry here, which is an heirloom. And it did pretty well as far as heirlooms that I've tried in my garden before. And then I've got this hybrid. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and put them together this year and see if I can get them to cross-pollinate. Just out of curiosity to see what we can get out of it. And of course, I'm going to be mixing my garden up this year to create some bug confusion. But plants that I want to cross-pollinate, I will be putting these guys, some of them together. But anything that I want to cross-pollinate, just out of curiosity to see what I get out of it, I'll put them next to each other. But everything else is going to be mixed up. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to order some soybeans. I'm going to mix the soybeans in with things as well. And then each plant will have a peanut next to it to feed that plant. Because I noticed a huge difference between the plants that were growing next to peanuts and the ones that weren't. The peanuts were feeding those plants. So pretty much every plant that I'm growing this year is going to have a peanut next to it. And it works fine because the peanuts stay low to the ground. They're not drowning out the sunlight, and the peanuts seem to do just fine underneath the plant like that. Look at these. These are my sunflowers. These are a mammoth sunflower, a hybrid. And I have a plan for these guys. They are going to go under the pergola on each side, and then underneath I'm going to do marigolds. In fact, I brought my marigold seeds out here today. And I'm going to be throwing most of these out, but I want to go ahead and start some in bins today. That way I have something growing nice at the start of the season. When I first walk into the garden, I'll have my sunflowers and marigolds looking good. I'm running out of soil. I'm gonna have to pick some more up tomorrow, but I'm gonna start these marigolds real quick. So I wanted to get those started. I ran out of soil. I'm gonna pick up more tomorrow. This is how far I got. And I've got a lot more to go. I went ahead and marked the ones that I'm gonna start fertilizing today with just a little circle at the top. This whole section I'm gonna fertilize with that fish fertilizer. The other stuff I'm just gonna water with regular water. We'll see which ones start getting more leaves quicker than others, if it makes a difference. I've been needing a new watering can and I got one. Look at this thing. Is it not cute? I was looking at one at Tractor Supply and I think it was like $14.99, but then I was at Walmart, saw these, $11. I couldn't pass it up. I needed one anyway, so I went ahead and got this guy. But we'll go ahead and get these guys fertilized and watered. And I'll catch up with y'all. Ooh, ooh, ooh. It's kind of fun. Anyway, I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow. It's the next day, y'all, and I was able to get more soil. Alrighty, it's hot in here. Oh God. Wow. Am I reading this correctly? Jeez Louise. Y'all, I think I'm gonna need to change. This is way too hot in here for pants, I think. I wanted to get some more of these tomatoes planted. I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna go change my wardrobe because it's hot in here. That's much better. So last night I went ahead and just bit the bullet and bought some Bootstrap Farmers growing containers. I got 400 of them. I hope that that will be enough. I think it will. Those will hopefully be here later this week. I just got an email that they were shipped off today. So that's awesome. But for right now, I do have some. We'll see how far we can get. So something exciting happened this morning. So a few weeks back, I collected a bunch of eggs from the chicken coop. Now the brown ones are golden comets, which is a cross between a leghorn and a Rhode Island red. The colorful eggs are just a mixture of different little bantams that are colorful layers. We went ahead and put them in the incubator. Last night, we started to hear chirping. And we had our first one that pipped, which means that it just started to barely crack through the eggshell. So far, we've got 5 that are now out of their shell, drying off. It takes a good 24 hours for them to fully dry off. Then you can put them in the brooder. But right now they need to stay in that incubator until they're fully dry. And so far we've got 2 more pippin', and we'll just kind of see what happens. I'd love if they all hatched, but sometimes it doesn't work that way. But we'll see. I'm excited. Our roosters are also comets. So we'll see what happens and what kind of colors we get. Since the comet is a cross breed, I don't know what the chicks are gonna look like. We'll see. So far, we're getting mixed colors. We have one that's all black, which is fun. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see. There'll just be a bunch of little surprises, lots of different colors. See my cute little anole friend? They're all over in here. They're everywhere. There's a big fat one around here somewhere. He's the littler one. They help eat the bugs in here. I spotted him. I see him. He's jumping. Hey, you. What you doing? You're not as fat today as you were the other day. I think you need a meal. I'm finished. I filled all my bins. So that means I've got a good, 200 tomatoes here. I've still got more to do, but I got through it pretty good, I think. This is what I have left here, and then I have 2 more of these in the house that I keep forgetting to bring out. It's exciting, you guys. I planted these on January 13th. It is now, I think, February 5th. I'm not sure. Somewhere around there. They definitely took a little bit longer to sprout because of the colder weather, but it did work. And I'm 1 month ahead than I was last year on starting my tomatoes. So hopefully they're a lot bigger when it's time to put them outside, which is going to be the first week of April. And of course, all of my azaleas and hydrangea cuttings are going to have to go on the porch because I need a lot more room. I do have 1 more card table, so I think I'll be okay. I need to get these zinnias separated as well. They need more space in the borage, but I'll get to that. Those Bootstrap Farmers containers should get here and I can finish the rest of this up, and that's gonna feel really good. All right, y'all, thanks for hanging out with me. Take care, and we'll see you next time.